Hello, everybody. Welcome to Top Hat Creative Marketing Why Wednesday. We've got Lisa Hossack here with us again. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Brett. It's always lovely to see you.
You too. So, to get right into things, today I'm really excited to hear about email marketing. And I've had some problems, run into some things that has really made me shy away from email marketing. Specifically, all the Google, and this is the only thing I really know about, but Google platforms, a lot of emails that haven't been sent from a previously known address are ending up in spam. You've got to go search in spam. You can't search the rest of the email to find them. They're a real pain. And I'm really worried that my email marketing is going there and nobody's ever seeing it. So, what do you got for us today? And how about that?
All right. Well, you're going to start with the big one right out of the gate, eh?
It's on my mind. Can you tell?
I can. So, let's start with the big elephant in the room. There have indeed been a lot of changes over the last, I'm going to say 14 months for email marketing in general. Last August, Apple actually rolled out a pretty large update that had to do with data privacy and how emails get delivered as a result of that change is a part of what you're experiencing here with the Google spam folder. So, I did some research on that specifically. First of all, I remember when Apple did their big update, and a number of my older email programs really struggled to deliver to Yahoo, Hotmail. There are still a few people on the AOL platform, even
I always
Google.
love those.
Yeah, those are my favorites. Um, so I certainly saw an impact initially, but I did some additional research since then, and actually HubSpot's been watching this. And anybody who doesn't know HubSpot is sort of an influencer and a good go-to resource when you're not sure what's happening in the world of internet digital marketing. So I went and looked up HubSpot. And interestingly, even though that change happened and we saw a little less open rate, a little bit more landing in spam folders, what we did find is those people who interacted with emails regularly actually went up in terms of engagement, open rate, click through rates, etc. So
So,
what that means is that a higher level of quality user was being targeted instead of just spraying and praying crap all over people.
to make that clear for me, does that mean that if I've been interacted with those people at all before, I'm going to have a better open rate, but if I haven't, that those bets are off?
Yeah, that's exactly. So what this ultimately means and what I brought and prepared for us today is we just need a little bit of behavioral change to our best practices when it comes to email marketing. They haven't killed this tactic dead in the water. What they have done is turned it into something that just requires a little more observation of consumer behavior and online behavior by our target markets. So I
Okay,
brought a little bit of that information for you today to help
great.
combat, because I've actually adjusted to a few of these tactics I'm going to share with you, and I'm seeing a larger open rate with my emails than I've ever seen. So, let me give you a few best practices here for anybody out there that does email marketing. First, I want to go back and reinforce email marketing still has the highest return on investment of any strategy we use in digital marketing. And the biggest reason is if you have a nice, healthy list of people who have opted in, who you've asked to opt in, if you've followed the rules of good email marketing, which is engage with people who want to engage with you,
Right,
you will actually see a really great return on investment because these people really do want to hear from you.
right.
So always have a really healthy list. Ask people if they want to opt in. If you just auto add people, which can happen, just make sure that there's a double opt in process where they're aware that they've been added into your list and they agree.
Got it.
Okay. Now, you also need to remind people a few times. Like if you're like, hey, I'm going to add you to my newsletter list and I didn't hear from you, you may need to ask them a couple of different times in a couple of different ways. So we get a lot of information coming at us. If you don't get the response you want on the first time and it's like crickets, you get no response, there's no wrong way to go back and ask a second time.
Gotcha.
Okay, so if you have a really good cultivated list and they've opted in, you're already going to see a more of an improvement. Now, some best practices to get people to engage with you a little bit more. First of all, we know that timing is everything in digital marketing. And the timing between when people open emails is going to vary depending on industry, the size of the email, how often and consistent are you in sending email. So you really want to study behavior. And a lot of the AI that's now involved in MailChimp and Constant Contact and Active Campaign, there's lots of different tools out here, is actually studying people opening. So they're going to give you some suggested times. Those are not bad times in there. We have a tendency to not want to trust the computer. And in this environment, you can trust the computer. I am finding I used to send things out first thing in the morning or, kind of end of the day or kind of odd times. And there was a lot of good practice around doing things first thing in the morning. But what we're discovering is buyer behavior is people open up their email first thing in the morning and they click delete, 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 and they'll leave the 10 emails that they actually want to read.
Right.
So I'm actually finding better open rates at like 11:30, right before lunch. I find some tremendous open rates between 5 and 6 p.m. where people have saved things to the end of the day, especially when I'm doing event marketing and things where I can tell people really want to dig into a particular topic. So I'm just going to invite the audience here to just study buyer behavior and study when people are really opening things. There are charts and analytics and all of these tools now, so you don't have to guess. Just go look and see when people open stuff.
Right.
And then test it. When I teach students this concept as well, I'm actually teaching email right now at the university level. And I tell them test, track, adjust is your best friend in the land of marketing, especially when we're talking email. Okay, so that's my first best practice. Play with your times. When are you actually sending content? I also like to send email out in small batch. So instead of spending all 10,000 at once, I'll break up my lists and what I do is I segment lists. I'll talk about that in just a second. But I send out to small batches, 1,000 at a time. If I'm really struggling with that Gmail spam folder, I might even do just a couple hundred at a time. The people who traditionally don't open or who do open, there are ways to segment that list to help with engagement.
Okay.
So since I'm there, let's talk segmenting because this is the third best practice, right? The second is break it down into some smaller lists.
Mm-hmm.
Segmenting is my third best practice. Now, in today's world, it is really rare for a broad message to really resonate with lots of different audiences.
Right.
So the more we can customize and tailor and segment that communications out to our audiences, the more likely they are to engage with the content. Also keeping us out of the spam folders. So one of the other things I do when I'm studying my email marketing is I observe what people are clicking on. I have one group that always opens. So I segment them out. Thank you for always opening my newsletter, raving fan. This one's for you. Then I take a second group. This is a group that doesn't open. It's probably about 70 to 75% of your audience. And this particular group, I actually will take the same email and change out headlines or subject lines and see if I can get that group to engage that's not opening significantly, that's not opening on a consistent basis. Once I can figure out what they open to, then I segment them into that topic. A third way to segment is those who are opening your emails and then clicking on content. You can begin to also segment there. So I will write email content to a general broad audience. Let's say I'm talking about event management. And I know in event management, I have individuals who want to rent a tent. I have event planners and I have corporate planners, right? So those are kind of my three audiences I'm going after. I will write emails specific to one of those audiences, send it out to everyone, and anyone who opens, I'll be able to label, oh, that's my event group. That's my event planner group because they opened this email. Right. So now I can start to really segment that audience and say, hey, event planner, you really liked the 5 ways to plan for an event, something I sent out recently. Here are 3 more things to add to your list. And I'm speaking specifically to that demographic and psychographic. Now, if you're noticing it's a little more work than it used to be. I used to be able to just send out an email, people would open, I'd get action. The
Right.
gone are the days of internet marketing being easy, right? Back in 2009, it was easy for me to say, "Hey, like me," and people would. Where now we have to work a little bit more. Okay?
Right.
So that's my third. And then the fourth thing that I have for you, I see this pretty consistently. There's two actually. I've got a fourth and a fifth one. My fourth best practice for you is test long content versus short content. What this means is there are some practices where I will put an entire blog inside of the email, the full article. And below that, I'll say, read other articles like this, and I will put links to my website to drive them back to my website. I take that same content and I do a summary instead, and then click to read the full article, again, taking them back to the website to read the full article. I find different audiences engage differently depending on long or short content. Some, you're never going to get them to leave that email. They don't want to go to your website. You've already got their attention. They've already got the email open. They want the content there. I have some audiences that like the summary and like to click and go and read on the email, which also allows some other automation techniques like pixels or calls to action or schedule a discovery session, all those things that show up on a website. So I
Right.
beta test my audience there as well. And I have a small group that I segment out that says really love the long content. And I got another segmented group that says they like the short and go to the website. So if you're noticing, all of these that I'm talking about at this stage are catering to the behavior of the people who are watching your email. My last and fifth technique that I always caution on is don't try to promote too much in these newsletters. If you've ever seen an email where you have to scroll 7 or 8 times to get to the bottom, you have too much going on that email. I like
Makes
nice and
sense.
simple, right? Here's my introductory or my blog. Here's a couple links to my website. Here's one thing I'm promoting.
Got it.
Okay. By
That
doing these types of techniques, you're going to find that people start to open your stuff more readily and you end up in less of the spam folders.
Got it. And
Okay.
then that's going to go back to the first problem is, I mean, everything I'm reading about and studying on for Google and for pretty much any digital media is that if you are getting engagement, you're good. If you're not, you're going to get sidelined.
Totally. Right. So that means also meet the needs of your consumer. Don't just put crap out, right? Understand what people really
Exactly.
want out of that email.
Yeah.
Now there's a couple
So,
techniques. Go ahead.
so what's a good technique? Let's go that first, and I'll ask my question.
So I just wanted to say there's a couple technical things you can do too if you consistently keep ending in that spam folder. I do short blasts with people and say, hey, opt in again. So I'll do a re-entry. I'll resend that same email out with a different headline and a shorter group. I will ask people, please move me out of your spam folder and into your white label list. So I do some technical things there as well. And if I find that my email tool is consistently landing in that junk folder, I will reach out to them directly. I have a couple of older tools that I work with and say, it doesn't seem to matter what I do, I'm still ending in junk. And so there might be, it's called an SDK. There might be some things that they can do on the email side that white label the ISP that it's coming from that also helps with that. Not to go too geeky on you, but what I'm
Makes sense.
ultimately saying is reach out to your constant contacts and say, I keep ending up in the Google Gmail spam folder. Please
Right,
help.
right. And so this is for your real active email list. This is not for your prospective client list that you've got a email list you're trying to build and stuff. This is for people that are really engaging with, like you say, a newsletter or doing things repetitively that you're going to be able to reach out to them multiple times and give them value for what they're looking for.
Absolutely. Right. That's really, you really want to keep that group engaged. I also want to just put a little asterisk next to that open rate. One of the other things that you can do if email marketing is a big piece of your world is switch the key performance indicators you're measuring. Open rate's not everything.
Right.
Right. I have one accountant that I worked with for years that would only send out a quarterly newsletter. And, he got a pretty good open rate. It was around 28%, which is pretty good for an accountant.
Right.
Um, But he kept talking about, I can't get this other group to open my emails. They just don't open. They just don't open. So I asked him instead, when he had new customers come in, to start asking about source. Where'd you find me? What is it that attracted you, et cetera, et
Mhm.
cetera. Through his study, he realized that even though people were not opening the email, because he was consistent, his brand name was in front of them so much that after a period of a couple of years, they were like, I get your email all the time. I don't read any of them, but I see your name. And that's what keeps you in front of me.
That's
So
validated you in my mind in terms of what I need and who I'm going to go to when I need it.
exactly, right. So don't forget that just sending the newsletter is a brand technique, even if people aren't opening it.
Wow. It's amazing when you hear stories like that. You're like, okay, that still works. It is based on nothing that's going to help the client because you didn't actually take advantage and look at what was sent to see if it's of value to you or not. Anyway, it's things like that make you shake your head and go, okay.
Hey, people are science. They're going to move around on you all the time. So, you just got to always be steady in your craft.
Exactly. I love it. Well, this is great stuff. I tried to take some good notes because A, I don't know a lot of this stuff, and B, I want to try and put it out there so that it's in the description so people can do that sort of thing we were talking about and look at some of these and maybe follow some links on this video feed instead of having to go through everything. So I will test that out on this as well.
Lovely. One last just kind of closing note, as additional research that I was doing for this session, one incredibly whopping statistic that I just got is if email marketing's not doing it for you now, if you're finding that that's just less effective over time, if you take that same list, you can actually go out and do a data match and find phone numbers based on emails, and SMS texts, the text messages that we get now have a 98% open rate.
It's truly amazing. I've been banging on that door for a very long time with my doctors. I should probably actually circle around and do it again because I haven't thumped on that particular door lately. But the open rate is insane. If I wasn't when I'm trying to get reviews, if I wasn't using a QR code now, I'd still be using SMS instead of anything else because of that open rate. So that's
Yeah.
great. Data match those emails with the numbers and go there. That works
Yeah.
awesome.
Right. Or when you're actually asking for their email addresses, ask for their phone number too. You can make it a non-required thing and people will give you phone numbers. Be
Right.
sensitive when you're using that text. Obviously, there's going to be some new rules that come into the new media that we're about to go into. And one of the big future trends that I'm seeing is third-party cookies and all of that are going to go away at some point. And us marketers are going to have to figure out how to get you to truly opt in rather than me swiping your data because you're looking at something.
Right.
Yeah.
And that'll be a good change. Hopefully that's on its way to blockchain technology and us controlling our own stuff. And looking forward to that time. But as a marketer, maybe not so much.
It does indeed keep you on toes. I started marketing in the 1900s, so when we just used newspaper and radio. So, welcome to an evolving world, and it always keeps you on your toes.
Exactly. Yellow pages, just a thing of the past.
Yeah, we actually got a Yellow Pages recently. Both my husband and I stared at, like, what is this thing? Kind of joking because it's been so long
That's
since we'd seen it.
awesome. Well, as usual, really great content. Thank you so much, Lisa. People, where can they find you?
You can easily find me at lisamhaas.com. That's 2 A's, 1 S. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Lisa Haas 1. You put Denver and Lisa Haas into a Google search. It's not too hard to find me. I'm out there for you.
Great. Thank you so much, and you have a great one.
You do too. Thanks so much.